It was so much more than an overtime goal. It fueled Canadian patriotism, and Canada is standing proud after that OT win against the U.S. last night. Good evening. Newmarket's Connor McDavid scored the winner against the U.S. to take the Four Nations face-off trophy.
What a moment. What a relief under the shadow of looming U.S. tariffs and taunts from President Trump that Canada become the 51st state. This win feels real good for Canadians right now. CTV's Allison Hurst joins us now live as fans. Allison, bask in the big win.
Lots of proud Canadians are coming up and sharing their stories about where they were when that overtime goal happened. But they're not just thrilled by the win, but that it happened during this political climate. A triumphant moment for Canadians.
Oh my God, did I jump out of my seat like crazy?
Daryl Coughlin and his son ecstatic about the win.
Me and my son were just cheering like mad in the garage.
For what it represents both on and off the ice.
I feel like as a country we kind of needed it, and I think Canadians are a proud people, and it was almost not worth it to put it on those guys, but they came through.
Adam Robertson is proud to wear his Team Canada jersey and grateful that someone shut down comments by U.S. President Donald Trump that diminish Canadian sovereignty.
This is really crazy that our biggest ally in our history and our biggest trading partner says every day that we're soon to be part of the United States.
The passion for our game and our country facing off against our North American rivals in sport.
This one was different. This wasn't a win for themselves. This was a win for 40+ million people.
With a trade war on their backs, following the win, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau posted on X a message to the president. You can't take our country, and you can't take our game.
Americans love Canadians, and Canadians love Americans. It's not the Americans. It's not even the elected official. It's one person.
It took more than one to make that overtime goal happen.
It was nice to see Marner get, a primary assist on the final goal.
Leaf fans like Darian Gordon are thrilled to see the team come together, and hopeful Toronto's right winger brings that winning mentality home.
Still like to see the Leafs do something, but Canada, it was pretty cool.
A stunning finish that saw Canada trump the Americans in overtime on their home ice. The tournament may be over, but the tariff threat remains as we wait to see what the next arena will look like, where Canada and the U.S. face off again. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. A member of the Toronto Maple Leafs played a pivotal role in last night's victory. Mitch Marner set up the overtime goal.
Yeah, it's special. It means a lot. I mean, unfortunately, ties before when I've worn the Canadian jersey, we haven't had as great success as we did in this tournament. So, it feels good. You always want to win these kind of things, and that's what we did.
Marner's Maple Leaf teammate Austin Matthews had 2 assists and 2 good chances in overtime, but couldn't beat the Canadian goalie. Afterwards, the U.S. captain reflected on his team's loss.
I think this was probably the biggest game a lot of us have played in. You don't get too many opportunities to wear these colors, to wear this jersey, in a winner-take-all situation. So obviously it's disappointing, but I couldn't be prouder of the group. I thought, like I said, we competed the whole tournament.
The CTV's Jeremy Sharon has more on the overtime thriller that Canadian hockey fans won't soon forget.
A golden goal from Canada's Connor McDavid with the weight of a nation on his shoulders.
That means the world. Obviously, you can see how happy our group is. It means a lot to us, too.
A win for Canada against the U.S. that comes in the face of political and economic attacks from President Donald Trump, who called the American team ahead of the game, offering his support.
This one was different. This wasn't a win for themselves. This was a win for 40+ million people. But Canada needed a win. And the players bared that on their shoulders.
A win celebrated by fans across the country.
They were always going to get it done. I had no doubt in my mind.
Including Canada's Prime Minister, who took to social media after the game to share a pointed message. You can't take our country, and you can't take our game.
The way the government's going right now, what's going on? Absolutely, we needed to win that.
It was clearly more than just a game, and that was obvious before it even started.
True patriot love that only us command.
With a small but deliberate change to the Canadian anthem by Winnipeg's Chantal Kreviatsik, she says meant to send a message to Trump about his threat to make Canada the 51st state. For a tournament that some first thought wouldn't hold much weight, it's one that will now be long remembered. Jeremy Sharon, CTV News.
And this was the scene in the Canadian dressing room after the game. The players belting out, "We are the champions," as they savored the dramatic win. Nathan MacKinnon had 4 goals in 4 games and was selected MVP of the tournament.
We have breaking news from north of Creemore, where a 55-year-old man has been killed after a roof collapse this afternoon. It happened at a country market in Clearview Township, west of Barrie. So far, there's no information on what caused the collapse. The OPP is still on scene investigating.
Well, a live look at the city tonight. The sky, it is calm, a nice break from all the snow, but it is certainly cold. The wind chill will factor into the feeling out there tonight for all of you with plans. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
Well, Michelle, the winds are starting to change direction, and that's one ingredient in our pattern change heading into this weekend. You're right, though, it is still cold, -7 degrees this hour. Wind chill, -15. Winds now coming out of the west as opposed to the northwest. And by tomorrow, they're going to be coming out of the southwest. We had a couple of scattered flurries in some places today, but otherwise it was mainly sunny. It was a beautiful day if you were looking outside your window. Overnight tonight dropping to -9 under partly cloudy skies. We're going to talk about the warm up and the potential for rain in the long range forecast. That's coming up. For now, Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. And still to come this half hour, there's a new report on the number of new home buyers, and there are concerns. Sales are nearing record lows. CTV's Janice Golding will have the story.
Sunwing Airlines restarted southbound flights out of Pearson Airport today after 2 days of cancellations. Several flights also arrived from sunny destinations early this morning, although the difficulties aren't completely over. Out of 14 flights scheduled to land in Toronto today, 5 were canceled and 2 were delayed. The airline's been recovering from back-to-back snowstorms that resulted in the cancellation of hundreds of flights at Pearson over the weekend. Sunwing is offering full refunds within 21 business days for those who've had their vacations canceled and says it's working to clear a backlog of luggage.
Meanwhile, Delta Airlines is pushing back against claims being spread online about the pilots of the plane that crashed at Pearson Airport. The airline says its first officer was not new to the job and had been flying with them since last April. The comments contrast claims online by people saying the pilot had failed training events. The airline also defended the captain of the flight, saying he had not failed certain training events either and had been employed since 2007. The cause of this crash landing is still under investigation.
The long, slow cleanup continues after 2 major snowfalls in Toronto. It's been more than a week since the first snowfall started piling up, and patience is wearing thin. And CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us now live with more details. Beth.
Nathan, snow removal began on Wednesday. The city says it's already taken away more than 72,000 tons of snow over more than 100 kilometers of roads. But some Torontonians are not impressed.
In Toronto's East End, there are vehicles still covered in snow. Piles of snow higher than cars and still so much snow, it's not easy for everyone to get around.
I think it's terrible. I think that they could be doing a much better job. I bet you there's a ton of senior citizens or people with disabilities that are stuck in their apartments and homes on these side streets are ridiculous.
It's been more than a week since the city's first big storm this month and 5 days since the second. And while the city is making progress clearing snow, some feel there is room for improvement.
You know, it should take just two, maximum 3 days to clear everything.
I mean, pleased to see that some of the bike lanes have been cleared, but there's just so much snow out there.
Along the Danforth, snow still spills onto the street, causing vehicles to park over the designated line, forcing people to walk around cars or climb over the banks.
I'm a business owner as well. It impacts all the local small businesses because there's going to be less foot traffic, and also the people can't even park on the side of the roads.
Some sidewalks are pretty clear before all of a sudden you hit a mound of snow.
And so the balancing act to get by and the shoveling continues.
Yeah, it's bad. Getting to school, horrible. You just look over there, you have to crawl over it. It's insane.
Crews with blowers and bobcats are working to remove snow, dispatched to strategic locations and loading it onto dump trucks. From there, the snow is hauled away and discarded in a yard.
Well, they're working at it. They're working hard. I don't want to give a grade yet. You know, you get a report card at the end of the term, no?
City officials say crews are out 24/7, but it could take 3 weeks to finish the job.
Snow removal is being done on a priority basis. Places like main streets, transit, emergency, and hospital routes. Major streets are being done overnight. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, back to you.
Thanks, Beth. Appreciate the update. A new report on the number of new home buyers is raising questions about what it will take to get buyers back.
The number of sales in January in Toronto and the GTA were approaching a record low. CTV's Janice Golding has the details.
New home construction continues, but buyers aren't biting.
It's crazy expensive.
And it seems unreasonable, unattainable.
I'm just enjoying the renter's game and trying to put away as much as I can.
It's like a massive, massive wall that seems like you can't overcome it right now.
Still, more than 21,000 new units are available in the GTA, about 3/4 of them condominiums. And according to the Building Industry and Land Development Association,
it's an absolute excellent opportunity to buy right now. You've got rates, mortgage rates that have come down. You have pricing that we haven't seen since 2019, and we have inventory levels that we haven't seen since 2016.
According to Build, 347 new homes were sold in January, which is down 40% year over year and 77% below the 10-year average. 101 were condos. That's down 58% since last January and 88% below the 10-year average. The remaining were 246 new single-family homes. That's down 27% compared to January 2024 and 63% from the 10-year average.
Prices are now 20% down off their peak. And I don't think there's much room for the prices to go further south, simply because the cost to build is so significant.
While the news may have created an optimal situation for buyers, not so for builders.
27, 28, we may be in a position where we wake up and there are no cranes in the sky.
It's difficult to see the financial viability of new projects, which Build says is slowing down the pace that new supply is being added to the market.
Tomorrow's housing crisis starting today, i.e. supply is going to disappear and new supply is not going to come to the market at the same pace.
Janice Golding, CTV News.
A man was rushed to hospital in critical condition after a stabbing in the city's West End early this morning. Toronto police say they were called to the Dover Court and Gary Avenue area at around 2:30 in the morning. When they arrived, they found a man in his 30s with stab wounds. He was taken to a trauma center for treatment. Paramedics described his injuries as life-threatening. It's not clear exactly where the incident took place or if the victim lived in the area, but neighbors say they've been left shaken.
It's really unfortunate that it happened, of course, like especially in this neighborhood when some stuff like this doesn't really happen. But it just really tells us that we gotta do better here.
I heard there was some stabbing there, but I don't know. I don't know these people. I never seen them before, so we're very upset because it used to be a good neighborhood.
Police were on scene today searching for evidence and canvassing for any video related to the stabbing. So far, there's been no word on any suspect information.
Now to the trial of Toronto councillor Michael Thompson, who is charged with sexual assault. And we do want to warn you, some of the testimony by a woman today may be upsetting.
The woman has alleged Thompson sexually assaulted her at a Muskoka cottage in 2022. CTV's Natalie Johnson reports.
Back inside this Bracebridge courthouse today, Toronto councillor Michael Thompson listened to the graphic testimony of the woman who alleges he forced himself on her at a Muskoka cottage in July 2022. How did you feel about the idea of going to this cottage or house party as it was described to you? The prosecutor asked her. At the time, I was excited, she said. But the court heard the weekend took a traumatic turn. The complainant recounted being greeted by Thompson when she arrived, and he showed her her room. Quote, I do remember him pushing down on the mattress, saying, feel the bed, she said. He said, whatever happens in Muskoka stays in Muskoka. The complainant recounted a day of drinking alcohol with the two other women who were at the cottage, but said that Thompson seemed sober. By the end of the night, quote, I was drunk and that's when I stopped drinking and went to bed. I was definitely wobbling, definitely slurring. I was drunk, very drunk. She said her next memory was waking up to find Thompson standing over her, alleging he led her down to a downstairs bedroom. Quote, I remember I didn't have any clothes on. Immediately getting to the room, I was still standing and he was on me. I don't know how to describe it. He was just being aggressive, not rough, but definitely trying to engage in something sexual. I said to him, I don't want to do this. I lied to him and said that I would get pregnant because I thought that would deter him. I remember thinking, I am in a basement. I am with a stranger. I fell back on the bed to sit because I was too drunk to stand or argue with him. At that moment, I was scared because I knew I couldn't do anything. I was drunk. I didn't know where I was. I felt trapped. The complainant alleges Thompson then performed a sex act. The defense, though, fired back in cross-examination, suggesting inconsistencies between the complainant's testimony today and what she told police at the time. You told the police that you were blackout drunk, the defense said. I would suggest to you it was you who wanted to go downstairs. The complainant insisted it was a traumatic event. Thompson has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of sexual assault. The cross-examination continues. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Toronto police have made an arrest in a sexual assault investigation dating back more than a decade and a string of other incidents. On Thursday, police arrested 35-year-old Adrian Francis of Oshawa. He's accused of sexually assaulting a woman while she was shopping in Pickering back in September of 2014. It's alleged he also committed indecent acts in stores in 2 incidents in 2019 and 2020 before a second sexual assault claim reported in Scarborough in late 2023. He was set to appear in court this morning.
Halton police are sharing the results of a major drug bust. Police say Project Regal focused on a drug supply network operating in the GTA. Between February 8th and the 10th, police executed search warrants in Oakville, Brampton, and Toronto, allegedly seizing around 11 kilograms of cocaine, quantities of meth and fentanyl, as well as a gun, a vehicle, and around $250,000 in cash. 5 suspects face a combined more than 50 charges, including drug trafficking and gun offenses.
Also tonight, 2 inmates who escaped from a prison in Gravenhurst are back behind bars. 7-year-old Jay Sador and 68-year-old Michael Karras were discovered missing during a head count at Beaver Creek Institution Wednesday. Sador was jailed for first-degree murder, while Karras was sentenced to 15 years for robbery, forcible confinement, and using an imitation firearm. OPP say the pair has now been caught. Corrections Canada is investigating how they managed to escape.
Hamas released a body today. It claimed to be that of an Israeli hostage whose misidentification in a handover yesterday threatened to derail the ceasefire. A moment of silence was held in Tel Aviv after the woman's body, along with that of her 2 young sons and a man, were handed over. The identities of 3 of the bodies were confirmed, but Israel said the 4th body was that of an unidentified woman. It prompted a threat of retaliation from Israel. Medical authorities will examine the body handed over today to confirm his identity. 6 living hostages are expected to be released tomorrow in exchange for more than 600 Palestinian prisoners and detainees.
In Rome, doctors say Pope Francis is not out of danger yet, but is not considered life-threatening. The pontiff is being treated for double pneumonia. He was admitted 1 week ago after experiencing breathing difficulties for several days. His medical team said today the Pope was able to sit in an armchair and do some work and visit the chapel in his apartment in the hospital. Doctors expect he will remain there until at least through next week.
The provincial election is less than a week away, and while Doug Ford is south of the border, the other main party leaders continue to hit the campaign trail today.
They've released numbers behind their campaign promises. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the latest.
In a sprawling Washington Convention Center, Doug Ford is in premier mode, meeting with a handful of governors, trying to emphasize that tariffs would mean pain on both sides of the border.
What's shocking to me is how misinformed a lot of elected officials down here, how critical Canada plays in their economy.
Ford returns to the official campaign trail this weekend, heading to Ontario's north. The PC party says its costed platform will be out Monday. Two other party leaders took the wraps off their complete platforms with dollars and cents attached.
No new taxes and no tax increases. In fact, we're going to decrease your taxes.
The Liberals are promising $65 billion in new spending, with new commitments to build 90 schools, shrink class sizes, and shorten teachers' college programs to 1 year to tackle shortages.
That money is there in the budget. It was given away, but it exists there next year as well. We wouldn't give it away. We would repurpose it.
Marit Stiles began her day in a Hamilton Centre, a traditionally NDP riding, but where Sarah Jama, the former New Democrat booted from caucus, is running as an independent. In a city rattled by incoming steel tariffs.
My priority right now is absolutely maintaining and protecting Ontario jobs and opportunities here in Hamilton with steelworkers and all across the province.
The NDP platform promises $70 billion in new spending, leaning on tweaked taxes to help out. The NDP proposing new tax brackets for those earning between $300,000 and $500,000 a year, increasing the amount of capital gains subject to tax to 80%. And a higher land transfer tax for homes purchased for more than $3 million. A week before the start of Ramadan, Green leader Mike Schreiner spoke to members of Guelph's Muslim community at Friday prayer, expressing empathy for the suffering in Gaza.
I wish there was more I could do to stop it. But the one thing I know we can do in our community is to say peace starts here in Guelph.
Tucked into the Liberal platform, a bold promise to get to 0 deaths by opioids in 4 years. It's a vow without a real roadmap, but Bonnie Crombie says her party will follow the science. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Coming up, Prime Minister Trudeau's teenage son in the spotlight. Xavier officially launches his debut single, drawing inspiration from big Canadian artists. We'll take a listen.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you're thinking about going south for fun in the sun but don't have the cash up front, some websites are offering buy now, pay later deals. But booking a trip this way does come with some risk. I'll tell you why. That's just ahead.
Well, the weekend is here, and it's going to start to feel a little more comfortable out there, especially on Sunday as the winds begin to ease. Here's the thing. We are looking at the potential for some mixed precipitation into the day on Monday, maybe some wet snow, and maybe some rain. We'll show you how high the temperature could climb in the long-range forecast coming up. And here's a live look at the outside in the GTA. Stay with us. CTV News will be back in 2 minutes.
Many travelers who had their plans disrupted this week due to flight cancellations are now navigating the steps to get compensation.
If you're planning a trip south, there are now payment options to buy now and pay later, but there can be risks to booking a trip this way. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. More companies are offering buy now, pay later plans if you want to book a vacation. It may seem tempting to take a trip and pay for it later, but you could face problems getting a refund if your flight is delayed or canceled. No one wants to have their flight delayed or canceled, and if it happens to you, you may have to jump through hoops to seek compensation. Getting a refund could be even more difficult if you paid for your trip using a third-party buy now and pay later plan. Daniel Arata has traveled to many countries, but he's never been on a cruise. While planning his trip, he came across buy now, pay later loan options.
I think it will be something that I will look into to be able to make this happen, which I really look forward to.
Buy now, pay later plans have become a popular way to pay for many goods and services, such as appliances, but travel is one of the fastest growing categories, offering quick approvals, no hard credit checks, and easy installment payments. But Consumer Reports warns that these loans aren't always smooth sailing.
Unlike credit cards, buy now, pay later loans don't always come with the same consumer protections. If your trip is delayed or canceled, sometimes getting a refund can be a nightmare, leaving travelers stuck making payments for a vacation they never took.
And then there's the fine print. While some buy now, pay later plans do offer interest-free payments, typically split into 4 installments over 2 months, others also include conventional loans with interest rates as high as 36%. So make sure you know exactly what you're signing up for.
Some consumers end up with unexpected fees or sky-high interest rates, turning what seemed like a good deal into a costly purchase.
And if your trip gets canceled, you may still be on the hook for payments. If this happens to you, reach out to the buy now, pay later lender with proof that your refund is underway and ask to pause payments until it's resolved. Because when it comes to travel, things don't always go as expected.
It's always interesting and it's, adventures. I call it adventures.
If you buy now and pay later, read the fine print so you won't have any unexpected surprises if your trip hits turbulence along the way. And if possible, use a credit card to book your trip as it will give you more protection, including easier refunds and dispute resolution. Another option is setting aside money in advance for your vacation. Then you won't have a debt to pay when you get back home. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
I'm just thinking a warm vacation would be nice. But anyway, we do have a bit of a warm-up coming. I mean, compared to, -10, -2 is looking good tomorrow.
Yeah, the warm-up and there's sunshine. Hey, a clear Friday night is always nice. And there's lots of snow to play in. Although, I don't know about you, but I've heard some people who like to ski actually say there's almost too much snow this year, which is hilarious because we had none last year.
Imagine too much of a good thing for outdoor winter enthusiasts. But it's true. That is happening in parts of the province. And what I want to talk about here is frozen lakes, or at least seemingly frozen lakes. What's happened with all the snow that we've had recently is that snow is actually, it's putting pressure on the ice that was there. So for around Barrie, for example, as you can see here, it's not such a good thing for those who were hoping to do some snowmobiling, maybe go ice fishing this weekend. You'll want to make sure that any ice that you venture near or onto is safe. It might be a better idea to stay close to the trails with your sled and just watch out for the color of ice and make sure you let anyone know where you're going if your plans include venturing out on any frozen lakes or ponds this weekend. Unlike last weekend, the Family Day weekend when travel was looking a little bit tricky, it's looking very pleasant for spending some time in Collingwood, Muskoka, and the Kawartha Lakes this weekend, at least for your journey there. And temperature-wise, we're on the upswing. Right now, it's -7 degrees in Toronto, wind chill -14. Overnight tonight, it is still going to feel like the -teens, and we're into the low minus single digits, -9 for the low here locally. But tomorrow, we do start to see some improvements. First of all, the winds are going to be coming out of the southwest, so that bumps us up to about -2 degrees in Welland, -3 in Burlington and Aurora, -4 in the Collingwood area, and perhaps -3 degrees in Trenton. Worth mentioning, you might be able to see a little more flurry activity in these icons east of Toronto. That is going to be a possibility as we make our way through the day tomorrow. Yes, we've got some light snow pulling away from the Niagara region. Elsewhere, we had a mostly sunny day today. It's pretty quiet on the weather front, which is something we haven't been able to say for the last couple of weeks here. Worth mentioning, though, that a couple of clipper systems are going to swing through next week and bring us maybe a little bit of wet snow, maybe a little bit of rain, and also temperatures above freezing for the first time in a couple of weeks. We've paused the forecast radar here just to show you tomorrow. Variable cloudiness with some sunny breaks into your Saturday night. That's where we see perhaps a little light burst of snow for Toronto east and communities to the east of Georgian Bay. Heading into the day on Sunday, a mostly cloudy one. Late in the day, we're expecting maybe some light snow once again. And then Monday, this is when this first system is going to move through, and you can see already a couple of different colors here. So maybe some wet snow to start, followed by a switch over to some rain because the temperature is going to be about 3 degrees. It might be 4 degrees by the time we hit Tuesday. Wednesday is still warmer than normal and potentially unsettled. Looks like a return to some colder air by the end of next week. That's your look at the weather. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, we sit down with the actor who plays Sir Bob Geldof in Just for One Day and discover how the musical is changing people's lives every day.
Just over half of Canada's human trafficking cases originate in Ontario.
And a new documentary is helping to educate frontline workers and others about how to deal with this growing problem. CTV's Pauline Chan has more.
I was 16 when I met him, 17 when I entered the industry.
I was 12.
Dark Highway doesn't just expose the crime of human trafficking, it tries to put the viewer in the victim's shoes.
I'm going to be 63 this March, and I still deal with my PTSD every day.
Kelly Tellen Franklin is a survivor of human trafficking and sexual abuse from the 1980s, but as a frontline worker now, she says she still sees the same situations.
The trafficker picks them up, they get dropped back off, and they go home. Keep your eyes open for behaviors, changes, mannerisms.
91% of all those that have reported, they know their trafficker. It's relational.
Franklin says landlords are a common part of the human trafficking network, people who supposedly help young people or newly arrived residents to get settled. And Peel Region, with its bustling, diverse community, excellent highway access, and proximity to the airport, has unfortunately become a hub for trafficking because of all these benefits. She's been working with Peel Children's Aid to try and develop the latest policies and programs to support young victims.
Peel Children's Aid Society works with the most vulnerable, and we know that 12 to 24 years of age youth are most vulnerable to fall victim to human trafficking.
We know it's an underreported crime.
Peel CAS recently held a screening of Dark Highway for its frontline staff.
They're looking for love, they're looking for attachment, and they're coming with unresolved trauma. And those are 3 red flags that we know that affect our children and youth the most here.
Sylvia Kolitsopoulos says they've been partnering with Peel Police and other agencies.
We have an early help and prevention program, a very new program, very trailblazing in child welfare, where we work with families and youth even before they get caught up in an investigation or a very intrusive means.
We have to teach the young people that they deserve to self-direct their own care. But in the middle of their trauma, they have no capacity to do that.
Dark Highway is available for schools and other organizations to view. Contact Courage for Freedom for more information. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Officials in Peel Region are investigating a confirmed case of measles. Peel Public Health says they confirmed the case earlier this week, and they've been checking for potential exposure risks. Officials say members of the public should watch for symptoms for 21 days if they were present at Cornerstone Medical Center in Brampton last Sunday from around 2 p.m. to just after 5 o'clock. The latest figures from Public Health Ontario show nearly 60 confirmed and 6 probable cases of measles in the province so far this year. Excuse me. Meanwhile, Public Health Ontario is sharing new figures on the ongoing respiratory virus season. Looking at February 9th to the 15th, more than 22% of lab tests for the flu came back positive, and that indicates a high rate of spread. More than 700 patients were hospitalized for their flu infections, while 165 were admitted for RSV, 486 for COVID. Those viruses remained at low levels of spread, and there were 0 COVID deaths reported that week.
The musical Just for One Day continues a legacy of helping others at a time when funding for those who need it most is being cut.
CTV's Andrea Kay sat down with Craig Ells, the actor who brings Sir Bob Geldof to life on stage, a show that continues to breathe life into his fundraising efforts.
I just had an emotional reaction to something on the news, so I picked up my guitar to find some sort of response.
Just for One Day has been playing at the CAA Ed Mervis Theatre for several weeks now, but actor Craig Ells has been with the show long before that. From a workshop to opening at London's Old Vic and now Toronto, he's thoroughly enjoying bringing the role of Sir Bob Geldof, co-creator of Live Aid, to life on stage.
You never really get the sort of primary source in the room with you. So we'd be like halfway through a scene and we'd be talking about it, and then Bob would just stand up and come and say, you know, well, what actually happened was so-and-so was here, and this is what, and you sort of tell you verbatim what happened, which you can then use, and you also get to watch mannerisms and listen to vocal patterns. Hugely helpful.
Can't you see the food just isn't getting through?
A concert, like a global jukebox.
The show tells the story of how the song Do They Know It's Christmas and the Live Aid concert for famine relief in Ethiopia came to be.
As well as all the factual stuff and as well as all the business side of things to get this huge event to happen, there were brilliant characters and fun characters along the way that made it happen.
It was the first of its kind. Technology was a lot different.
Mobile phones didn't exist, so you couldn't just donate by, clicking and texting. People queued up outside post offices and banks to go and make their pledges, to make their donations, and it raised millions upon millions.
And it continues to do so today.
This show still makes a difference because a certain percentage of sales for the show go towards the Band-Aid Trust and still make a difference to this day. So to be doing that 40 years on is incredible.
Just for one day, closes on March 16th, and then it heads back to the UK. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Well, it may not be the music news you were expecting, but the Prime Minister's eldest son, Xavier, dropped his debut single today. The 17-year-old Trudeau shared the single Till the Night's Done at midnight, followed by a music video this afternoon. He released the moody R&B track under the name Zav, and it also features some vocals from his younger sister, Ella Grace. Some commentators liken the sound to other Canadian musicians like Drake and Justin Bieber. Reps say Zav has more songs and some live shows planned for the near future.
Canada's own Tate McRae dropped her highly anticipated third album overnight. McRae marked the debut with a music video for her song Revolving Door. McRae says the video has special meaning as it features 15 doors, one for each track on the new album. The album is titled So Close to What, and McRae is touring with the tunes on her Miss Possessive tour with stops in Toronto August 19th and 20th. Also today, Selena Gomez and Gracie Abrams shared their new pop duet called Call Me When You Break Up. The pair appeared to have filmed the video themselves with a front-facing camera with lyrics pining over a former love interest. It's the second track to be released from Gomez's upcoming album with her fiancé, music producer Benny Blanco.
After the break, celebrating Black History Month at Square One, Mississauga. We check out the pop-up market showcasing unique and diverse products for all.
Did I jump out of my seat like crazy? Me and my son were just cheering like mad in the garage.
Updating our top stories, hockey fans are basking in Team Canada's overtime victory last night against Team USA in the Four Nations face-off final. The game took on some extra meaning amid the U.S. president's comments about Canada becoming the 51st state. Prime Minister Trudeau hit back after the win, saying, "You can't take our country and you can't take our game."
Sunwing Airlines has resumed southbound flights out of Pearson after canceling them completely in the last 2 days. It's still far from smooth sailing, with a number of flights being delayed or canceled today. The company is working to recover from hundreds of flight cancellations last weekend. We have a team at the airport this evening hoping to hear from some of those returning passengers.
I bet you there's a ton of senior citizens or people with disabilities that are stuck in their apartments and homes on these side streets. Are ridiculous.
And residents are speaking out against difficult conditions on city streets several days after the GTA was hit with a pair of major snowstorms. Officials say crews are working 24/7 to clear roads, and they've already removed more than 72,000 tons of snow, although the full effort could take a few more weeks.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
Square One held a pop-up Black-owned business market inside the mall today.
It's aimed at supporting local Black-owned businesses and creators. And Jessica Smith has more on the initiative.
Creating access and exploring creativity. That's the idea behind this pop-up market for Black History Month.
It's bustling. There's so many people supporting the vendors. They're all so happy. The energy is really high, and we're just excited to be here.
Trending Table Inc., a local company that helps connect the community to Canadian-owned and operated businesses, has partnered with Square One Shopping Centre to host local Black and BIPOC entrepreneurs.
We've been partnering with Trending Table for the past year to help feature local businesses and connect them with our community.
The market is free to the public to attend, removing any barriers when it comes to accessing a diverse range of local small businesses.
Just a community celebration for people to come together, celebrate Black History Month, Black excellence, and enjoy the vendors and all the fun activations that we have in store.
For the vendors, it's an opportunity to meet the community that supports them.
So coming into these pop-ups, it has more variety and you get to see more people. You get to go to different locations and get to mingle.
The hope is to inspire other Black and BIPOC entrepreneurs to share their lived experiences, their stories, and creations to help make their community a more inclusive place.
And never give up. That's the most important, never give up. Keep pushing.
Heading into the weekend, in addition to the market being here inside of Square One, there will be a live steel pan band and a live painting demonstration. The market runs until the 23rd. Jessica Smith, CTV News, Toronto.
Automaker Stellantis is pumping the brakes on its overhaul of a plant in Brampton.
The company says it's reassessing its strategy in North America. BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has more.
Stellantis, like a lot of companies, is trying to figure out what the road ahead looks like, with Donald Trump blowing up the way things work in the U.S. Stellantis employs about 3,000 people at the plant outside of Toronto. Now, they've been off while the company redesigns a space to build electric and gas-powered vehicles. Today, Stellantis announced it's halting all activity at the plant, but says it's only temporary. The auto sector has been rocked by the American president's threat to put a 25% tariff on vehicles coming in from Canada or Mexico, and he wants to pull the plug on billions of dollars meant to build out charging stations for electric vehicles. Canadians were spending over the holiday season. The uptick in retail in December was the biggest monthly move in more than 4 years. Sales were up 2.5%, and that's well above the 1.6% analysts had expected. The break on the GST may have encouraged consumers to spend more. And Delta is being sued after that crash on Monday that left a jet upside down on a tarmac in Toronto. At least 2 passengers from that flight are taking legal action, alleging physical and mental injuries. Delta has already offered the 76 passengers $30,000 each as a gesture of good faith. Including the crew, there were 80 people on board. No one died, but many were injured when the plane landed in wintry conditions, catching fire and flipping over. Let's take a look at what the markets did today. The Canadian dollar ends the day down at 70.27 U.S. Oil on the West Texas Intermediate dropped by more than $2 to close at $70.40 U.S. According to our latest fix on Western Canadian Select, it's up to $59.30 a barrel. And all the major North American markets sank today. The TSX dropped 367 points, ending the day at 25,147. Those are your business headlines from the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom. I'm Morella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Just ahead on CTV News, as Ontarians get set to go to the polls next week, there is a renewed quest to save the Science Centre and keep it where it is.
A rally will be held tomorrow in an effort to keep the Ontario Science Centre from moving to the Lakeshore. The Science Centre was closed in June and is being moved to a redeveloped Ontario Place. It's expected to reopen in 2029. People hoping to get the province to change its mind about the move will gather at Thorncliffe Park Public School at 2 p.m. A recent report from Ontario's Auditor General found that it will cost $1.4 billion to build and maintain a new science centre at Ontario Place, which is more than the $1.3 billion it would have cost to maintain the original site.
Well, all that snow on the ground has been a source of frustration for the past number of days. Now,
a video shared by a BC ski resort is highlighting some of the ways people and their furry friends are finding some joy in the wintry conditions. And take a look at this. The team at Mount Washington Alpine Resort on Vancouver Island gave a special 360-degree camera to 3-year-old rescue team member Roni. She was able to capture some of the exciting moments while out on the ski hills with her handler Cedric. The resort says her favorite task is the end-of-day sweep when she often finds lost gloves and other items left on the slopes. Just last month, Roni got her official certification to work as an Avalanche rescue dog. Way to go, Roni.
Cool gig. Yeah, that dog's in heaven. Some dogs absolutely adore the snow. Others don't want to go out in it. But at least there's no more snow for the next day or so.
Yeah, if anything, we might get a few flurries, but we're not looking to do any additional shoveling as we make our way through this weekend. One more look at the satellite and radar. All is pretty calm and pretty clear. We are expecting a little bit of cloud to increase overnight tonight, but we should be waking up to some sunshine. It's going to be cold for one more start of the day. The afternoon tomorrow doesn't look too bad, but the winds are still going to be a factor. We are more comfortable on Sunday, and then mixed precip is possible next week. Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Lindsay. That is it for CTV News at 6, but be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.